Remember last year's amazing trip? That cute first birthday party? All those photos, all those memories can be freed from your phone with a Shutterfly photo book. Rediscover and share your favorite moments with those you love. You'll be amazed how easy it is to make a photo book with Shutterfly and enjoy it for years to come. Get 40% off orders over $29 with code POD40 at Shutterfly.com and make something that means something.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
This edition of Flixwatcher, we welcome Ben from Top Film Tip and John from Future Music, where we will be dissecting That Thing You Do.
As always, guys, we have all the show notes online at flixwatcher.tv for all the episodes, so please come and visit us there. Of course, join us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, and please come to iTunes, rate us, and subscribe. So, guys, just as a big reminder, all films on the podcast were available on Netflix at the time of recording. There will be bad language, there will be spoilers. I hope you enjoy it.
This episode of Flixwatcher Pod is brought to you by GL Productions. GL Production provide hassle-free, professional quality podcast production at an affordable price. So if you're looking to get into podcasting but fancy a little bit of professionalism to help you out, then we highly recommend GL Productions. If you fancy 10% off your bespoke podcast production package, tell them Kobe and Helen sent you for your first order. Welcome to Flixwatcher, and today we are joined by John and Ben. John, hi. How
Hello.
are you? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So John Lonnie here. You can normally hear me every couple of weeks on Future Music FM, which is much more the music side. Also a big film fan and various things, including sci-fi specials every now and then. So glad to be along.
Cool.
And Ben. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Helen. Hi, Kobe. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Who are you?
I am Ben, and I run at Top Film Tip on Twitter, where I put out snappy, concise little synopses for the best free films on TV each day and night.
Which are really cool.
Yeah, you may have seen them on Twitter.
And there are partners on Flixwatcher, so we'll link to them a lot and retweet what you do.
Likewise.
Cool.
And the film we are here today to discuss is, John, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, that with trepidation. So That Thing You Do.
Why with trepidation?
I think we'll find out over the next 30 minutes. That Thing You Do. So an older film, 1996, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, something like that.
And so it's about a small-time band in Pennsylvania that get a bit of airtime, and the drummer breaks his arm or some sort of limb. Another guy takes over, gives him a bit of a kick, plays the song a bit faster, and this song comes to the attention of a manager, then get passed on to the director of the film, who in fact was Tom Hanks, and they make it to the big time, go on tour, and it's about what happens to them, and it's the classic kind of, rags to riches, back to rags.
One-hit wonder.
Making it big, one-hit wonder. And of course the band is called The Wonders, which initially spelled Oneders, but we'll come back to that later on. So it's about what happens. So kind of a feel-good film, pretty lightweight, and we'll see whether it's actually an easy watch in people's minds, I guess.
For the record, this film has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And on IMDb?
I didn't check that. I'm sure it's probably six or something, maybe about that.
What are that? We can check that later.
Yeah. So, John, what was your overall feelings about this film?
Hence my trepidation. It was interesting. I'd never actually seen it before until it was picked for the podcast.
And that's what Netflix is really cool for, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Tom Hanks. In a lot of things he's done over the years, all the way back to The Burbs, growing up, to the more recent endeavours.
Inferno.
We'll not mention that.
And so it was interesting to make myself watch it for 2.5 hours, I think it is. So it's interesting. It's kind of nice, piece of sort of middle America type, American Pie band comes on. It's a I suppose it's a classic story. Yeah, it's kind of long for that. I think one of my overall impressions of the time actually is that it's the band's kind of interesting and plays a tune. It's kind of a classic story, but it's about 2.5 hours long, which is a pretty good investment for something which is sort of a pretty lightweight film. I wonder whether now these days it's perhaps it feels a little bit vanilla. It's probably not being hoping I'm too unkind to it. There's a lot of other films out there to watch. So, but it's a interesting watch. I think I'd be interested to see what everyone makes of it.
Helen?
I think it's very much a product of its time. I mean, this was the mid-90s. Tom Hanks had just double Oscar won. He was kind of on the top of his game, thought, I want to direct a film.
So
Liv Tyler was very...
Was that, Philadelphia and Forrest Gump he just back-to-backed on?
Yeah. So that would have been, 94, 95 and a bit before then. So he was very, very bankable. Liv Tyler was just up and coming. It's a very feel-good film. It's very Tom Hanks. It is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, which is at least an hour longer than it really needs to be. But Sunday afternoon, I kind of enjoyed it. I found it wholly unoffensive in any way.
I think Ben might disagree with you.
Should we go to me next instead of Ben? Should we say Ben?
How long can we leave him hanging?
Ben is... There's steam coming out of Ben's head. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I remember it coming out, and I remember the song being in the charts forever, and I didn't see it at the time. So this is the first time I've seen it on a small screen. And I remember liking the song when it came out. So it was quite cool. I think it was just nice. It was on Sunday afternoon, had nothing to do. Maybe the newspapers were nearby, and it was just kind of there in the background, and the song comes on again, so you'd have to concentrate for a bit. But I enjoyed the story of the guys getting bigger and then kind of going their separate ways, and the trials and tribulations that they have, even though the trials and tribulations perhaps aren't actually that interesting. Like you say, it was a bit vanilla. I think it's kind of a nice way to describe the fact that, it's kind of nice. Kind of nice. And I know
it's kind of like Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
He's Tom Hanks. He's just kind of, he's very nice, makes nice films.
Was this his first film?
It's the first film he directed.
I think
It's
the only
it's the only one.
Oh, it was the only one.
And that's one thing that I did strike me is that I do like his work. A lot of films I've watched over and over again. Apollo 13, for example, was probably my top 10, top 20 films of all time. I think it's brilliant. I mean, obviously that's a different director, but he's great in that. Great, very likable role and everything else. Yeah, he's different. He acts in this as well. Of course, he plays the ultimate manager, but so it's a slightly less likable character in that. Actually, bizarrely, but yeah, I think
there's no edge in it.
Top of his game at the time, directed and maybe thought it's just something he wants to do, but the fact he hasn't done it much since, I wonder what his own experience was.
But then you talk about Tom Hanks and you say bankable.
Yeah,
Philadelphia wasn't at the time, was kind of a shocking watch, and Forrest Gump at the time was kind of, obviously it was nice and happy, white picket fences, but there's still some dark scenes in there.
Yeah, but they both made shitloads of money, so he could have gone to any film company and said, I want to direct, this is what I want to do, and they just went, sure, Tom, here's all the money you want, you can make it last that long, you can do this, you can do that. So it is just a product. It is completely of that Tom Hanks. I love Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
I'm one of the biggest Tom Hanks fans in the world. But
we've had this discussion before. Is he your favourite Tom?
Yes. No.
Do you have more respect for Tom Hanks than anyone?
It's a big claim.
No, but I've grown up with his films: Big Splash, The Burbs, Money Pit, through to Forrest Gump, Philadelphia, Saving Private Ryan, and then through to Captain Phillips. Mm-hmm. He's got a massive back catalogue, and it's a shame that he hasn't done more like Saving Private Ryan or Captain Phillips, which you'd kind of like to see him doing more now, because obviously he's a lot older. But it just makes me sad when things like Inferno happen. That's what he's kind of always done. He's always done the bankable thing. He's always done, the first one made money, why don't I do the second one? Or he does the films that are inoffensive and kind of middle of the road and kind of have that warm feeling that you get from watching them.
Speaking of Inferno, should we
Yeah.
unleash Ben.
Yeah. Go for it.
That was a beautiful segue. I have to say, I wholeheartedly agree with everything John said. This film was really, really long. It is about an entirely vanilla and unhindered rise without any tribulations, any trial, or any struggle for some middle-class white people. And I really had to make myself watch it.
For the purpose of Flixwatcher.
That's commitment.
I'm willing to take that. I'm willing to take one for the team.
So what did you hate the most? Is that the best way to phrase it?
I wouldn't even know where to begin, Kobe. The song, I think it's the song I hated the most, but perhaps because it was just completely just symbolic. It was the essence of everything that was awful about this film.
Just like throw in here that Ben doesn't like the Beatles, which, if you know the music of the Beatles, I mean, this film is set in the 60s. They are a band with, it's kind of that 60s
it is,
Beatles
Helen,
/ Beach Boys / manufactured
that's
band
a really
sound.
fair point. That's a really fair point. And what this film notably doesn't do is have anything to say about the social tumult of the 60s, to have anything to do with anyone of any interest. There is no struggle. There is no soul. It is about nothing.
You had that guy that broke his arm. He struggled a bit. He must at the end. The guy
I'm sure there is some struggle. Doesn't someone kind of do something at the end?
There's a relationship that splits up.
Yeah.
The lead singer tends to a dick. I mean, it's
the hardest thing the band have to overcome is halfway through the opportunity that falls into their lap for no reason, that gives them a meteoric rise to fame for no reason, on the basis of a song that has no background. It has these lyrics and they don't mean anything and they're not about anything and they don't relate to any characters in the film or anything that happened to any of the characters of the film. And the hardest thing they have to face is when one of the cymbals falls over in a concert.
And then immediately after that, they get signed by Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard being rich and white in the 60s, and yeah, I found this film almost offensively bland about about nothing. It was like having your teeth pulled out by mayonnaise. It was just awful.
I think it was. Yeah, God. Generally speaking, for example, I did the music show. I try not to. If I don't like a song, I just won't play it, rather than saying mean things about it. So I'm trying to be constructive, but it's hard in this case. I think the problem is, one of my favourite characters was the dad who works in the shop, because he's like, cool, he's a dad. The characters aren't very relatable. Much. It's kind of interesting. Everything else. It's kind of this is what's going on.
There aren't really much to the characters.
It's pretty disposable. It's weird. It's like it's a feel good film, but at the same time, not a huge amount happens, and it all feels quite long, and you don't really feel like you necessarily care about a lot of the characters too much. That's the weird thing. Like the drummer guy is actually pretty good. Shades. He gets sunglasses, right? Actually, he kind of you do appreciate him to some extent, and what he goes through a bit. But that's kind of it, really. So the other band members are pretty interchangeable. I can't remember one of the actors' names now, but
Eric Stoltz, is it? The lead.
Steve Zahn.
Steve Zahn. I don't know why I said Eric Stoltz.
Exactly. So, he's quite likable as an actor and everything else. But for example, the bass player, he's called in the credits, he's TB player. He doesn't even have an actual name in the film. And what's the film? The film's about the band, and the bass player doesn't have a name. And like, wow, that's kind of what's it really about then?
Is that true?
That's true. That's a true fact.
Oh, I did not. Wow. Hold on.
So, it's like, okay, so
I feel this is only really underlying my thesis.
Yeah, I know. So it's like the Doors, but we're only going to talk about three of the band members or something like that. And nothing kind of happens, and they go through the motions, and then the rise to fame and comes down. But I suppose I wouldn't have minded so much if it's an hour and a half or an hour 40.
I would.
I think I know you would have, but it's kind of like it's the extra 40 minutes. But although weirdly, to be fair, in its defence, which obviously if it's a film and it doesn't need to defending from me, is actually there's a bit like I can't bother watching this, and I had to make myself keep watching it to find out what's going to happen next.
That engagement score is going to be
not great.
Were you disappointed when nothing happened next?
David used to think, surely something's going to happen next. But there was a bit. I mean, it does get a bit more interesting at points, but you have to really get through a lot of. I don't know how. I'm looking at Ben. How many times does that song play?
9 times in the first 64 minutes.
Okay, and I do remember the tirade on Messenger about that as this was happening. It seemed like there was a breakdown going on at some point, which I kind of appreciate. Although having said that, really listening to the song, it's a catchy song. It's
not
quite nice.
It's awful.
It is catchy.
I like the Beatles, so I'm okay with it. It's quite fun and everything else, and it's inoffensive, to use Helen's words, and it's catchy. And I found myself humming it later on, as you go.
Whilst
it sticks with you longer than the film does, I think.
I just want to say that whilst I don't enjoy the music of the Beatles, I appreciate the music of the Beatles. I recognise what they did. They not only were of their time, but they changed the times, and they had a huge impact, and they were engaged in the world, and they had things to say, and they were important and artistic and innovative, and they did interesting things, and they were important, and they made an impact, which is unlike anything that happens in this film, the characters in the film, the story of the film, or the song in this film.
But that isn't. I think that's a lot of the point of this film. They're called the Wonders. It's not a pun. They've carved this whole film for that one thing. And when I watched it again recently,
you've seen it twice.
You watched it twice.
I quite like it. I didn't. The last time I watched it, I wasn't particularly paying attention, even though I wasn't paying attention the first time that much. But there was a line that said, it's only been 2 months since they started to get into the fastest selling record in the history of America to when them all splitting up. And that's when I thought, hold on, that's a bit far-fetched. That's a bit silly. I don't know how long it took the Spice Girls to get Wannabe to number one, but that just made the whole kind of thing
It's probably about 2 months for them, because they were manufactured and the song was already written anyway, so all they did was turned up, recorded it and released it. Yeah. That's kind of pop music.
They learned the dance routine, right? These guys don't even dance. What's the bit where the dude tries to show off to some army guys by doing press-ups?
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
What?
Oh yeah, I think by that stage, you're looking for more interesting things. It's in the hotel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hotel bar.
Doesn't one of them run off to be in the army?
Yeah, that's
him.
Is that the same film?
Yeah. He sees the guy.
Yeah, so there is drama.
Is that the same film? Helen,
There is
I think
drama.
you've just made my argument for me.
There is drama, because don't they have to do a performance and they can't, and all the band has disappeared?
Yeah, and the one guy's drunk and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it's but it all comes together. Yeah, that's maybe 2 hours in.
Yeah. Does anyone remember how long it was before somebody who wasn't white was in the film? It was about an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half.
Right. Okay.
There's-
Well, of its time. Okay.
1996.
No, more about the setting.
There were no black people in the 60s.
Maybe not in that band. Maybe I'm something under Tom Hanks' management. I don't know. Sorry, for the record, that was the character being played by Tom Hanks, not Tom Hanks himself.
Tom Hanks himself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't take offense to this film in the same way you guys are, apart from the fact it was 2.5 hours long. And the main thing that will stop me watching again is the fact it's 2.5 hours long. And the main reason I don't watch films like Lord of the Rings is because they're 3 hours long, and I know that I can watch 2 films I'd much rather watch in that space of time than Lord of the Rings. I can watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off twice, and I'd rather do that than watch Lord of the Rings again. So the length of films, especially on Netflix, on TV, is a big kind of issue. And I didn't realise it was 2.5 hours long. When you said it, I was like, shit, I'm not going to watch that again anytime soon.
It's a long film.
I suppose my question is, what's your favourite scene from the film?
My favourite scene from the film is right at the end.
That's my favourite scene.
It's also my
The end
favourite
credits.
scene. In the recording studio.
Yeah, in the recording studio
Exactly.
with Dell, and
Yeah.
he's playing jazz with that guy at the end. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's your second favourite?
The second favourite scene, actually, I did quite like it.
Oh, you've seen it twice. Hang on, you're cheating. Okay.
They played it when the song was first played on the radio, and they're all kind of screaming in the streets and running into the shop. I was like, oh, that's quite cute. That's quite nice. They got the song played on the radio, and they're getting some traction. So that kind of made me smile. And that's quite early on in the film. I think that kind of spurred my goodwill. So maybe I wasn't as hateful as you.
I wasn't hateful.
Ben's got hate.
I know he does.
I've got 2 favourite scenes.
It's a slog. It felt like a.
It just felt long.
I would never have watched, and I wouldn't have kept watching it unless the fact was doing the.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
What point would you have switched off? Do you know?
If I'm honest, half an hour, 40 minutes in, it's probably a terrible thing to say, but it's like, it's a bit, don't really, I go back to it, the bass player doesn't have a name. It's hard to love a band where they don't even have kind of rounded persona and everything else. And there's a lot of other good, band music type films out there that tell it, The Commitments, obviously, is the classic one.
Yeah.
They're all, ridiculous things they go through and everything else, but they don't even really have a meteoric rise to fame apart from local thing, and then they all break up and punch each other.
There's obviously the everyone's probably heard of the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Presumably, where you can gauge the level of a film's kind of diversity and equality by if it has two named female characters who have a discussion that's not about a man. In this film, some of the main characters don't even have names. And I think that really does speak volume.
Oh, yeah.
Is a bassist really ever a main character?
In Nirvana?
Phil,
Yeah, that's Dave Grohl.
Yeah, there's only three
Dave
of them.
Grohl was a drummer. Come on, dude. Phil Lynott from the band that sang "The Boys Are Back in Town." Damn
Thin Lizzy.
it.
Yeah.
Lemmy, Paul McCartney. What guys? Come on.
I'm not a muso. Come on, Joel. You know music.
Yeah, but it's called future music. It's not called. Not called
There's no
Have
bass.
bass in the future.
well,
There's no strung bass in
I know
future
it's
music.
all about this.
I mean, I can't really pick out a scene that is particularly standout or memorable, but kind of what I did like was sort of how they were kind of a little bit like the Monkees, and when they were kind of put into the TV show and they kind of felt uncomfortable, and then kind of at the end where he's in the studio, that's kind of a little bit of Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. So if anything, I kind of enjoyed how he'd kind of maybe picked out bits out of actual band histories from that kind of era and kind of used them in film. And that's probably sort of the bits that I enjoyed the most. I mean, for if you want to see a better, more recent one, I don't believe it's on Netflix, but the Brian Wilson one, Love and Mercy, is very, very good.
Yeah.
And for a general kind of rock biopic, Almost Famous is probably one of the best bands on the road ones. So there are
Better films.
many, many better films about bands, fictional or real bands that you could watch. And this really doesn't kind of explore any of the things that bands on the road face, or kind of explore any kind of songwriting inspiration or anything like that.
No, it doesn't go into any. Yeah, I know. I get the fact it's a shallow film. To some extent,
It's not intentionally shallow though. I think it's just kind of intentionally maybe slightly throwaway.
Yeah.
But it is very much kind of feel good, throwaway, light-hearted.
What's to feel good
entertainment.
about? I didn't know.
Oh.
That drum beat,
Joking aside,
when he first did that drum beat and called themselves the Oneders, that was quite funny, right? The first time they said Oneders instead of the Wonders.
It's a terrible band name for the
It was
record.
just shit. From the start, that was a shit name.
I'm just absolutely speechless, and not in a good way. I had two favourite scenes in this film. My first favourite scene is the blessed relief I felt when they stopped playing that fucking song about an hour and 20 minutes in, and then my next favourite was when the film ended and I didn't have to watch it anymore.
Silence.
It's tough. Yeah, tough. I mean, trying to find things I liked about it.
You really have to dig deep.
Yeah, you do. It looks great. It looks kind of a message in that kind of time, and the suits and everything else, and actually, whilst Tom Hanks' character isn't very likable, he's kind of quite interesting as kind of the band manager, and also the fact he's kind of fairly hard-headed. Look, you guys are here today, gone tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to what I'm doing. We'll get you on the road, and if you don't want to do it, then you'll go somewhere else. And that's kind of at the end, the final scene. That's kind of sums it up. It's like, well, end of the contract, whatever. So we'll find another band. We'll go from there. So
It's just that it took 2.5 hours
it
to
took
tell
a little
that
while
bit.
to get there, and it's like you just don't feel like you're invested in any of the characters too much at all, which is for me always a bit of a thing you'd like to get out of a film, especially when you're sitting down to watch it for 2 hours, and especially, for example, if you're watching it on Netflix at home by yourself. For example, it's like, well, I could watch something else. After about 40
I think that's that's a kind of true test, actually, because if you can just literally switch over and pick one of a million other films, then it's a big ask if you're not interested in the film to keep watching it, I guess. So I guess thank you to you guys for sticking with it for the purpose of this podcast recording. Guys, can you hear that crunching? That means it's popcorn time, and we'd love to say thank you for providing popcorn for the show and for you guys here at Flixwatcher Podcast. This is popcorn. This is popcorn from the Popcorn Shed. Tell us a bit about Popcorn Shed, Helen.
Popcorn Shed makes popcorn from secret family recipes, although the ingredients are on the back, so you can see what the ingredients are. But it's suitable for vegetarians and gluten-free, which is always an excellent thing.
Yeah, but that makes it sound like it's untasty, which is the opposite of what it is. It's super tasty. Hold on, I'm gonna try some. No.
Very, very, very delicious. This is salted caramel that we're enjoying.
It is
Crunching
salty and it's caramelly and it's tasty. Sam and Laura make the popcorn in their own big pans in a shed, and that's why it's called Popcorn Shed. Go and visit them, guys, at popcornshed.com. You can find out where to get it because it's so tasty you need to try it.
Mmm. And on that, shall we
Should
do some scoring? Yeah. So with our little scoring system, the first one up is recommendability. So
one day you'll be able to say that.
yeah, one day. Not yet. John, would you recommend this to anyone, anywhere, ever?
Yes, I would. I'm not sure who they would be. People, I suppose people like maybe my parents. I'm not sure. They've got reasonable taste, actually. You know, people think, the on paper band, feel good film, rise to fame, break up, set in the 60s. Yeah, sounds interesting to some people. They'd have to say, well, it's quite long. So yeah, I think 2. I'm not quite sure who I'd pick out of my close personal friends to say they watch it, but
2
out of 5 for now. Sorry.
Ben,
Does this scale go to 0?
You can have a 0.
I don't know. I think the only person I'd probably recommend this film to would be like a really reprehensible criminal, and you really whatever they'd done was so awful you wanted to just inflict tremendous pain on the person. And I would recommend that they watch this 24 hours a day for their whole prison sentence.
You really didn't like that song, did you?
It was awful.
but if you're saying that, that wouldn't work because myself and Helen quite liked it. So
Would you still like it after the 12th time?
yeah, but there'd be very few films I could watch after the 12th time. And
It's no Terminator 2.
did you watch that? Oh,
Yeah,
good shout.
it's no Big Lebowski.
So it's a 0.
It's a
is it?
0 for me.
I'm going to give it 2. If you are like me and have seen pretty much everything else that Tom Hanks has done and you haven't seen this, then you kind of need to watch it to get a 100% completion. Then
So we recommend it for Tom Hanks completists.
yeah. And I don't know, if you're really hungover and on a
Hold on.
Sunday, it kind of...
Let's take a step back here. Angels and Demons, Inferno, and...
Well, I haven't seen those.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So-
I have zero interest in
watching
seeing those.
So it's higher than those
Yeah.
films. Okay.
God, yeah.
I'm
It has
just-
to be higher than those.
For you, Ben? Have you seen any of those? What's the first one?
Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code. I saw the Da Vinci Code.
But the thing is with that, if I'd read the books and enjoyed the books, then that would be a different thing. But this is, kind of... I haven't seen that thing you do. I kind of missed it when it came out.
Mm.
Had I seen it when it came out, then maybe I'd probably feel a little bit different about it. But yeah, I like Tom Hanks. I would recommend it if you haven't seen it and you also
Like Tom Hanks.
stuff that Tom Hanks does.
So you're giving it a 2, though?
Yeah.
I'm giving it a 3. And
Wow. Is that just to skew the results, Kobe, or do
Yeah,
you have an
to-
argument?
because Tom Hanks is paying me for this. I can think of a lot of people who, if they hadn't watched it, I think that people would like it, but I would always say that, look, it's 2.5 hours long. Just know that before you watch it, and don't expect anything meaningful, and go sit down and enjoy it. I wouldn't recommend it to you.
Yeah, or put it on, do the hoovering.
Yeah.
It's either or.
Put some ironing
I think
Yeah.
this film would be improved if you were doing the hoovering. You couldn't hear it.
on. Repeat viewing score, Ben. Oh, John first, sorry. Considering you wouldn't have watched it all the way through if you not had to for this podcast, I assume it would be quite low.
I honestly don't think I'll ever watch this film all the way through from start to finish ever again. not. I don't even hate it. I just think there's more films. For example, I'm much more likely to watch Apollo 13 again. I've probably watched that film
13?
It's a great film.
It's a great film.
20 times.
You know, it's
More,
Ron Howard
brilliant.
and Tom Hanks
But
in
so is
Kevin
real-
Bacon.
in
so is
space,
Inferno.
based on real life story. What else could you?
Yeah, so I could watch that over and over again, probably. You know, that's kind of a Middle America period history, so it does it really well. Yeah, this film just is not for me. So I think, unfortunately, I'm going to say 0. I'm afraid. I feel a bit harsh, but I think if I'm honest, I don't think I'm ever going to sit down and think, you know what, I'm going to watch That Thing You Do all the way through again.
Benjamin.
Yeah, it's a shame it doesn't go negative. I'm going to say 0. There's nothing about this film that would make me want to watch it again.
Helen.
I mean, I'm going to give it a 1.
In what circumstances would you watch it again, Helen?
Well, maybe if it was on the TV already and it was something that I wanted to
Batteries
watch.
would run out in the remote control.
Yeah.
Halfway
And then
through.
there was something on after it that I wanted to watch. Then
So you
I would
didn't-
probably...
So you couldn't
Yeah,
muster
so
the
for
energy
example,
to change
if
the channel.
there was a Tom Hanks kind of film marathon and there was any
What
of
if
his other
Angels and
films,
Demons was on in front of it and Inferno was on after it?
that would be like a shit sandwich. No, you know, if say it was Sunday afternoon and I was doing something else, I was reading the papers
Go
and
for a walk.
a film that I wanted to watch was on after it, I may watch more. But it is, it is 2.5 hours. It is a long film. And, I'm not saying I'm never going to watch it again. That may happen. I'm still young. I've got lots of years left on this
Never say never, I
earth.
guess.
So I'm not gonna give it a 0 because I may watch parts of it again. It may happen. I'm not going to rule it out. But also, I can't really say that
You
I'd
could be in a
actively...
full body cast in hospital.
That could
In
be
an
a...
It comes on the TV.
In an iron lung.
You can't reach the remote control because you've been injured.
But
and
then
you have to watch it.
Yeah, if
'cause you
if
can't
I
turn
had
away.
to watch it again, then I wouldn't feel that bad about it. It wouldn't be a case of I'd be feeling like you are. It's a 1. I may watch it again in the future. I'm not going to go out my way to try and watch it again though.
I think I'm quite lenient view. I'm going to give it a 2
Wow.
for the reasons that if I was pottering around the house and cleaning
it's
up.
inoffensive.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't watch it from start to finish any time in the next decade. But if I put the TV on and was, like you say, waiting for the next Tom Hanks film, something like The Burbs, yeah,
I'd watch the
yeah.
I watched the Burbs too.
So I'll give it a 2.
We'd all watch The Burbs because it's a great film.
It's amazing. Let's go and watch The Burbs. That's not on Netflix, is it?
I think it may have been at one point.
Let's check this out. Go home, watch The Burbs. Small screen score.
Joe Dante.
Yeah.
Mm.
This is a tricky one. I think the smaller the screen, the better. Like,
If you can watch
it was
it
so small,
on your
you couldn't,
watch.
like, if it was like
On
the
your
size
Apple
of your
Watch.
fingernail on the other end of the train carriage, and you couldn't see it, that would be ideal. So, how do I rate that, Kobe?
Go for your gut.
0.
I can see where this is going. Okay.
I need to stress though. Should that be a 3? Because I don't think it would be better on
Well,
a big
it
screen.
should be, yeah,
It'd
I
probably be
mean-
worse on a big screen because there's more.
Well,
of
you
it.
can argue the toss however you want to.
I'm going to go for a 0.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a 5 for a small screen, but only because I'd much rather watch it at home on TV than go out to the cinema and sit through it and watch it there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's made for Netflix because you can just
Turn it off.
whack it on, sit there, do something else at the same time while it's on, or it doesn't need to be watched on a big screen.
I'd agree. You can turn it on and do something else.
I mean, I'm going to give it a 3 because it works on the small screen. You don't need a massive TV for this, and you don't need expensive sound systems. You could watch it with headphones in on your commute
On
to
mute.
South London to North London, which would take about 2.5 hours.
Southern Rail. Don't even get me started.
Would you rather watch this film again or have to commute every day for the rest of your lives on Southern Rail?
Well, as I don't have much of a choice in the latter, and I do in the former, I would rather get on the cattle carts, the rush hour Southern Rail, 5 days a week for the rest of my life.
If you've ever
than
travelled
ever
on
watch
Southern
this movie.
Rail, then you know how much Ben hates this film.
And I really hate Southern Rail.
I think I'm going to give this a 3. Because, like I said, I remember it was out at the cinema at the time, and having watched it now, I don't think I missed out from watching it in the cinema. I would have been quite disappointed had I spent my hard-earned pocket money.
I mean, that was the year that gave you The Rock, for example.
1996 had a lot of big films. When did Pulp Fiction come out?
It's 94.
No,
Was it?
cool.
Ooh.
Actually, yeah.
English Patient.
Never
Was that
seen it.
97? Was that 96? Maybe that year.
But if you're going to watch something, but no.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if you
Alien
spent...
3, Independence Day. They were 96, I believe.
Yeah.
There were other films you could have gone
Other
to
films
see,
I could have seen instead.
which
Yeah,
I
at
think
that age.
I
Other
believe
films I probably did see.
most
instead.
people did. Really, I don't
I-
think it really set the
This is
box
actually,
office
this is
alight.
actually reminding me of the fact my first paying job was in the local cinema. I used to put the posters up, change the times above the board.
Oh, you were
in front
those
of each
people?
screen. I was that guy.
Oh, awesome.
In New Brighton on the Wirral near Liverpool. That was me. The Apollo 6 down in Wallasey. And
how many screens did it have?
at 6.
Oh, God. Right.
Yeah.
Big.
Right.
And yeah, I used to go and like steal the posters and watch films from the projection booth. And yeah, I worked there for 2 years, sort of while I was doing my A-levels before I went to uni. I got paid like £25 a week, but I only really did the job because I got to see as many films as I wanted for free. And I got to see every film that's released between 1996 and 1998 for free in the cinema. And I still didn't watch that film.
Oh, wow. What a bombshell.
Well, let's go to the engagement score. John?
Not 0, but 1, given that I kind of wanted to turn off pretty quickly. And if I'm honest, was probably, maybe this with a small screen thing didn't do any favours because you could go and look at doing other things. But I did sit down and watch it. I probably paused it a few times and came back to it, which probably, says it. So I think I'll make it 2. 2, actually. I think when I sat down, 1's a bit harsh, but no more than 2.
Ben?
I think we all know what this is going to be.
Hold on. You know that scene in Clockwork Orange where Alex is being conditioned and he's got his eyes being like held open by clamps and they're putting the eye drops in and he can't look away. That was what it was like watching this film. And if I wasn't watching it for this podcast, I'd have got to 30 minutes, possibly 40, and it would have gone off. And I've sat through Pret-a-Porter.
That has got Here Comes the Hot Stepper in it, though.
Yeah, true. Annika Mosley. Yeah. So what score are you giving it?
0.
That's right.
Helen?
I'm going to give it a 2. I pretty much caught up on all of my emails while I was watching this. So on a Sunday, just kind of, going through my sort of my spammy email and caught up on all those offers that I'd missed. And kind of
Get any good investment opportunities?
saw some good time out of us. Yeah, I mean, it is long. It is really long.
It is really
by modern standard films, and it's quite long for a film on Netflix as well. I mean, I think for Netflix about 2 hours. If you're sat at home and you've not looked at your phone, or you've not been distracted by something else in your house for 2 hours, then the film's doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you could sort of go in and out every 20 minutes and sort of come back and still go, oh yeah, I kind of can see where this is going, and you won't really have missed anything.
You would have. Like, what's the bass player's name?
Well, he doesn't have a name. That's really sad, actually, doesn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's not very engaging. So yeah, 2.
And yeah, I don't think you need to be engaged at all. I'm going to give it a 2 because I like the song quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but yeah, you can do, like you say, you can do a lot of things. So whilst it's on,
Tax return, maybe.
yeah, that's kind. In fact, that's the kind of thing when you need just something in the background and you don't want something too too distracting, and you could put that thing you do on and go through VAT returns.
I would agree, actually. I feel like if I had some really unbelievably boring and difficult work to do, if I put this on in the background, that would then become
Force you
preferable.
to do the work. Yeah.
And then I'd choose to do that work. So there could be cause to use this film productively.
So this has an overall score of 1.7, which is low.
That's pretty low.
And that's mainly because of Ben.
Yeah, I think
I make no apologies.
Zeros across the board.
zero.
There,
I know I've been harsh recently, but I don't think I've done zeros across the board for anything. So yeah, if anything, it's memorable for having zero
from one
particular person. I mean, it's not a great Tom Hanks film. There are better Tom Hanks films.
For context, and you guys do know me, and anyone who watches who follows
Ben does actually like cinema.
My top film tip. I love film. I love any kind of film. I watch films from anywhere in any language. I love all forms, all lengths, everything, and I can see the good in virtually every film. What I would say is, it's an achievement to get any film made, and Tom Hanks obviously worked hard. It's not easy to get a film made, especially on that scale. And it's interesting to see his sort of career progression from sort of a comedic kind of B-movie actor all the way up to kind of Oscar-winning stuff, and to sort of see this little middle point in there. That there is an interest, if you're a Tom Hanks completist, but even for someone who has an unending and an unbreakable love for the genre of film, I found this a really difficult, grinding watch.
And on that note,
happy, cheerful note,
we are going to say goodbye. But if you would just both remind us where we can catch you in other realms, John.
So John Lunny, I'm on Twitter, shockingly, at John Lunny, and you can also find me on Mixcloud and on Future Music FM.
And you can find out which fantastic free films available for you to see on TV every single day at Top Film Tip on Twitter.
On the Twitter. All right, guys.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank
Thank you.
much.
Thanks for having us on. Bye.
Thank you to all involved. That's John from Future Music and Ben from Top Film Tip. Thanks, as always, for the awesome editing skills from GL Productions, and for the tunes you are hearing now, The Mighty People. As always, we are on iTunes. Subscribe now. You can come find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, and the website is flixwatcher.tv.